the ability to survive is this, it's just an ability. And how we how we as individuals navigate crying through trauma is going to be in large part unique to us, right? It isn't about good or bad.
So
It's
let
not weak or strong. It's about our bodies.
so let's talk about the pieces of it that are not unique to each one of us, because there are
Yeah.
some standardizations
Yep.
that are very fascinating, to be honest. Some things I literally read some things in these articles that I have never heard of before. And
Really.
yeah, like the whole like the actual components of the
I
tears. Did
know
you know
that's
that?
no,
Oh, okay, then you're not surprised.
no.
That's
I,
the thing. Like I never knew, like literally, first of all, there are three different types of tears. Okay. There are basal tears, reflex tears, and emotional tears. So
did you know any of that?
no, and not only that, but get this. The eye produces an average of 15 to 30 gallons of tears each year.
Hmm.
Look, our bodies are fascinating.
Yeah.
They are literal miracles. Okay. And the fact that, okay, let me tell you this, bottom line, our whole selves are literal miracles because we have been able to get through whatever we've been through. I'll tell you that,
Mhm.
bottom line. That's even like a get at the get-go. Okay. Forget all of this, the way the world views how we end up because of trauma. Because look, let me tell you something. You know what? The truth is you are a freaking brilliant miracle, and you know how to do life. And what we're doing now is learning how to heal through life and into life so that life is life-giving.
And
Okay.
right there, pause, mic drop. Like that's a lot, right? And yet, it's even cooler. Like I knew that there were physical, physiological benefits to tears. You know, they take things out of our eyes when our eyes are dry. Like I knew that. Okay. But tears, just the physiological tear themselves, they are so fascinating. I had no idea that tears connected to emotions, their makeup is different than
Mm-hmm.
the makeup of tears connected to anything else. So, for sure, I knew that tears were essential to our health,
Mm-hmm.
physical health, flushing the eyes out dry. Did I ever think about the social bond connection of tears? Nope. Blown away
Yeah.
completely
How
by
about the three
that's
layers
what I
of the
was going
tear?
to. Yeah.
There's an inner mucus layer, there's a watery middle layer, there's an outer oily layer. They're literally, look, this is fascinating, y'all. Look, to understand that our bodies produce what we need in order to live more wholly and more
Mm-hmm.
wholly, WHOLLY, and more fully in life in a way that our bodies are finally allowed then to express the experience that we have inside. And not only that, but to ask the questions. There's so many questions to ask ourselves around what we're believing around if we were to cry, or how about what are we believing if somebody around us was to have a glimpse into our internal world, or a glimpse into our internal, what we're feeling. um there are so many questions to ask ourselves around what it looks like to communicate our feelings by way of tears when words are not enough. How about, look, I remember, especially some of you in our group knew my Stella girl. She was my Weimaraner dog that she was inseparable from me. And a number of years ago, she passed away, and I shared that with our group. I remember around her passing, living life, my living life throughout some days, and intentionally without makeup because I needed to feel the freedom to express through tears. But I would cry and I wasn't thinking. The tears just came endlessly. There was no like, I wouldn't even be thinking about it while I was cooking or whatever it was, but the tears were coming. There was a connection there, and there were just not enough words. And so when we can live through life in ways that we are intentionally giving ourselves an opportunity even to grieve, to move through what we're needing to move through, when we can be intentional so that there are less barriers that push up against what we're needing emotionally, when we can explore and look into and be curious about
Mm.
reasons that keep us from doing those things, then we're looking at a time in which tears may be important, and yet it might not be fun, and yet it might also be an opportunity. How do we reframe what it looks like to have a need to cry? How do we
Mm.
reframe what it looks like to actually cry? What does it look like to explore safety when we explore that opportunity? Does that need to be a time when we're by ourselves or with someone that we
Yeah.
are very close to? It's going to look different for each person.
As I started with the article that kind of breaks down like what a tear is and the science of it. And I'm so glad I did because it just sort of like it just changed my perspective right from the start. And so one of the really amazing things about tears is first off, the body can't distinguish between overwhelming feelings of fear and sadness or the intense emotions of excitement and pleasure. It just knows that these are heightened feelings and that a response is required.
Hmm.
So the brain responds to those heightened feelings with emotional tears that are chemically different than any other type of tear. And so they're different because they have the three layers. So that structure is the same, but in addition to those three layers, emotional tears contain enzymes, lipids, electrolytes, and metabolics, along with some proteins and hormones that actually help us balance the stress. So crying, emotional tears is one of the brain's ways of restoring balance to that heightened feeling. When I read this, my first thought was seriously, who makes up society's rules? And can we fire them? And what I mean by that
Regulatory
is,
tool. It's a regulatory tool.
well, so what I mean by that is culturally, okay? Culturally, tears and crying have been wrapped in such just really ridiculous distortions that are so, I'm not sure who they work for, but I would say they're not working for anybody in society. If we can just grasp a hold of, like, set aside the cultural men don't cry, or if you cry too much, like, forget it all. That those tears, what they're really doing for us is keeping our bodies healthy, helping us. It's a brain's way of restoring balance that can help us work through anxiety and depression and help us avoid like nothing's instant. This is one piece of it, can help us avoid depression and anxiety worsening, right? Being able to understand what crying really does for us